Hey, Thomas here, and before we roll the podcast, wanted to ask you just for a quick favor. If you like the show, would you mind going over to iTunes and leaving a 5-star review and a quick comment? Why am I asking for this? Well, reviews make the world go round in this business, and I just want to reach more people, and you could help me do that. So if you don't mind, just go over to iTunes and leave that review while you're listening to this. I would so gratefully appreciate it. Okay, Maestro, roll the podcast. This is Subconscious Mind Mastery. Thomas Miller coming to you from the kind of the new control room here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out our Facebook group page. It's Subconscious Mind Mastery Podcast listeners on Facebook. And just so what have we got here? We're at April 30th. 3 days ago, I put a couple of pictures up of this new little room that Majan and I have created to be doing podcasts and videos and chroma key wall and the whole thing, and it's working remarkably well. So that's coming to you from there. All right, I wanted to talk about something that, if I could be as passionate and heartfelt as I think I've ever been on this podcast, this is it. What spawns this is that, okay, so, I went back in the fall, I went to Denver and went to a meeting there that they have every month. It's the Denver Astrology Group Meetup. And if you're ever in Denver, ever through town, it's on the second Saturday of the month. They meet at the Mercury Cafe, and I bumped into a podcast listener there. So you know who you are if you're listening. Waving from Dallas. I'll be back, probably going to be back next month, I'm hoping. Some of the best astrologers in the country happen to be congregated in Denver. And back in the fall, they had an outlook of 2019, and there was one main theme, and that was this contrast, this paradox, if you will, between the planet Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto. Now, again, I'm going to spare you guys from some long, drawn-out astrological blah, blah, blah that will leave your eyes crossed and you won't relate to. We're going to go straight to the point. The point is, this year has been set up from the beginning as a year of our lives. Like we have never had another opportunity like this in our life to do this kind of soul work. And it's right now. It's right here upon us. Now, so let me just explain the astrology thing. Okay, so Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in its own sign for this year. It's the sign of Sagittarius. However, right now, Jupiter is in retrograde. That means it's going backward in the sky. It's not literally moving backward in the sky, but it looks like it on the astrological chart. The same thing now has happened with Pluto and Saturn. All right, Pluto and Saturn represent our karmic path, our soul path. It represents our karma, and it represents our ability to resist what we're supposed to do while we're here. Because stacked right on top of those two guys is the south node of the South Lunar Node. And I did a podcast about the lunar nodes, if you want to look that one up. Very important, very critical aspect of our lives. It is probably the most foundational thing in astrology. If you're just going to look at one thing, look at the nodes. Don't look at your sign or your moon sign or your rising sign and all that stuff. Look at your nodes, because that's what you're here for. So what's going on there is Saturn is in its own sign of Capricorn. So it's like at home. Think of the wheel and all the signs around the wheel. Well, Saturn is sitting in its home base sign. Jupiter is sitting in its home base sign. Pluto is right next door to Saturn in Capricorn, and the South Node is in Capricorn. And by January, they're all going, well, right now, Saturn and the South Node are in alignment. They're in conjunction is the term. That means they look like they're right on top of each other. And by January of next year, Saturn is going to move over, and it's going to be sitting on top of Pluto. So if you want to Google this and look at what all the astrologers are saying about it, there's a bunch of articles. You would Google Saturn-Pluto conjunction 2020. But what all this means is that we have literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to do some of the most major karmic work we've ever been given universal support to do. I went back and looked at the last time that Pluto was in Capricorn, because see, so Saturn, it takes 28 and a half years to go all the way around the astrological wheel. So that means 28 and a half years ago, almost 29 years ago now, because it's 20 degrees through. But anyway, about 29 years ago is when Saturn last came into its own sign of Capricorn. But it takes slow-moving Pluto 240 years to go around the wheel. So there's no way that Saturn and Pluto have ever been in Capricorn. And that's what's giving this extra dynamite, is that Saturn is at home and Pluto is in there with it, and the South Node too. So I'm telling you, everything that doesn't work in your life is probably going to be challenged between now and January. But this is, if ever there was a time to align with why you are on the planet, why you're here, how your soul can grow. I've heard Fred say that he doesn't plan to come back as a human next time. He was like, this is it. And you know, when you see somebody who has done that amount of work and has achieved so much, I think that does open possibilities for them not to have to come back and do another lap like this. And then you can go on to other ways of being in the physical and non-physical realms. Fred has a lot of books on that if you want to listen to a lot of audio books that address that. But this is our soul journey. You know, we think about paying the bills and raising our kids and going to work and trying to keep our health together and all of this stuff. That is not what life is about. And when you frame it up like this, that this is a soul journey, it just makes the whole thing make a lot more sense. Because you are now raising other little souls, i.e. your kids, or you are in a relationship with another soul, i.e. your partner. But it truly is about our soul's journey. Of all of the stuff that I've been through in my past and all of the stuff that I've been through to turn my life around, and since I started living a new way and what's happened then, the one thing, if I could take one thing with me, it would be the awareness and the perspective that this is a soul journey first, that this was chosen, mapped out, and that I am basically, and you and everybody else, is playing out the roles that we designed in the non-physical realm. And the astrological chart is the map that shows us what that is. That's the thing I would take with me. So that, to me, is a lot of motivation to learn to read an astrology chart, at least at some tertiary level where you can start to put things together that you can tell what, so you can read the map, basically. I guess what Google should do is come up with a astrology maps, Google Maps, an astrology Google Maps. That's what it would be, so that you can read your astrological chart like you can interpret a Google map and on your way. Why do we do a map of the streets and not a map of our soul? Come on. Guess there's $1 billion idea right there. Unfortunately, not enough people are consciously aware to want to know this information. But just by listening, you've shown that you are. Okay, so what do you do with this? You super ramp up your karmic work, your soul work. This is a window, gang. This is a time, it's a season that energy of the whole universe is supporting this right now. And then there will come a time after next year that it will not be as supportive. Okay, so all these planets are in retrograde. What does that mean? It means that all of the perspective is inward right now. So this is the time to be looking within. In other words, the external influences. So let's say that Saturn wants to get your attention, or Pluto needs to tear down something in your life that is simply keeping you from being the very best you can be. That outward expression, that two-by-four that Saturn might use, that demolition team that Pluto might bring in, is on hold for a little while, at least through the summer. So you have the opportunity now to go within, to go deep, to go down, to do the work yourself without getting the club. That's what these planets are encouraged. That's where the energy is focused now. And that's why I think double down on all of the tools that you would use to do your soul growth. Journaling, meditating, extra time in prayer. If you don't have a yoga practice, maybe you should start one. Maybe create a ritual before you go to bed, or a ritual when you get up in the morning, and start doing that like every day. Capturing areas where you are resisting things would be a great place to start looking. If you don't like something, if you're resisting something, boy, that's a big arrow sign along the highway saying, exit here, let's take some time on this one. And then I think a lot of what I did in Colorado, just a lot of time in front of the universe or in front of your soul, asking for ways and areas to show you what you need to work on and steps to take. Nothing wrong with just good old-fashioned, hey, I'm here and I'm willing and ready to do the work, and show me what that is. I think that's one of the best things you could do. So with all of this alignment that's out there, I just wanted to make you extra super aware of it. I know I've talked about it quite a bit, but now it's here. So Saturn was the last one to turn retrograde. Now they are all pointed inside. This is just a day old, so this is the first day. I mean, it happened last night, literally, about 9 o'clock Eastern time last night. So this is the first day in this energy. So I'm just saying to use it to your advantage, enjoy it, experience it, be aware of it, don't be afraid of it, work with it. If something is taken out of your life right now, it was not serving you or was not going to serve you. Maybe it did serve you and it's completed. These guys know. These guys know how to keep us on our karmic path. This is the energy that guides us. It's the energy that, if you listen to my whole story, it was influenced by Pluto and Saturn and a move from the South Node to the North Node and a little bit of Jupiter thrown in on the side. They are all working for you right now. So my prayer for you is that you are aware and accepting of what's going on. I feel that I've done a great service, at least in putting this out there, and the ears that hear it and act on it will benefit. And I hope those ears are yours. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me bear my heart on my sleeve. Look inside and enjoy the journey. I'm Thomas Miller. Thanks for listening.